during this project, everything that I thought, man, that seems impossible, became possible. Everybody's successful. Everybody, you get up in the morning, you're breathing, you're walking, you put your pants on like everybody else, and you're successful today. What are you going to do today? But you know what? I listen, and I am smart, and I make sure I never come to the party empty-handed. That's a lesson. You never come to the party empty-handed. I've always got something to share.
Hey there, friend. This is Stephanie Crevens, and you are listening to the Mid-Level Leaders Hot Mess Hotline, where we share C-suite executives' hot mess stories with you so you can learn from them. They unfortunately had to go through them and learn these lessons the hard way. Don't do that to yourself. Listen into these podcast episodes so you can learn from their mistakes and growth opportunities and challenges and take them into your leadership and your management starting right after you stop listening to this podcast. My friend, you are in the right place. If you are a manager, a director, a vice president, and you're ambitious, you're hungry for more, you want to grow, you want to do more, you want to change the world in a more impactful way, and you're going to learn the lessons on how to do that right here in this podcast episode. Friends, today we have one of the, I'm going to call him a godfather of Indianapolis. This man has physically built Indianapolis and metaphorically built the leadership capacity of Central Indiana. Charlie Garcia. He is currently the president of Garcia and Associates. It's a consulting firm here in Indy where he just lends his leadership experience to so many clients. You know, he was an award-winning entrepreneur here in Indianapolis through his construction company, Garcia Construction Group, through much of the 90s and 2000s and 2010s. He's originally actually from San Francisco, California, but he is as Hoosier as it gets now. He is nice. I should say he is kind. He is humble. He is hardworking. He has just done so much for Central Indiana, and he's built up nonprofits. He's served on nonprofit boards, including IEPUI here in Indianapolis, which is where I got my undergraduate degree from. So I'm so grateful to that. But he has been a key component, especially in building in the leadership capacity of the Latina and Latino communities here in Indianapolis. And he was the first Hispanic president of our Indianapolis chamber, and out of that spun up a specific leadership cohort for our Latina and Latino brothers and sisters here, and is just doing amazing things. He is such a wonderful, generous mentor to so many, and I am so honored and privileged to bring you his story so that you can listen to it, his leadership lessons over multiple decades in one concise format and pull away the nuggets that he uses the most often. So let's dig into this hot mess with Charlie Garcia. Let's go. All right, let's rock and roll. Charlie, tell us about your hot mess, sir.
All right. Yeah, hot mess or hot whatever. Gosh, I've had so many hot messes, as most people have, and especially as you're growing and leading and developing relationships. And so this was in my 30s, and I was running, it was about a $20 million job downtown, 11-story building, remodel interior, and I was a project manager. And I started immediately losing money and doing my calculations, had 50 men on the payroll on the job site.
Okay.
Reporting up through 2 layers of supervision and management. And of course, I caught it first because I was doing my job. And I was losing like $2,500 or almost $3,000 a week, just like boom, immediately. And so I started running the calculations, and it was all labor, and materials was a little bit, but it was primarily labor. So the human factors, they call it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I started calculating and seeing that my production levels were down. I could not figure out why. I had good crews, I had good foremen and superintendents and people that were doing their job. I just could not figure it out. And so I went and sat on the project for a week. And what I found was 11-story building, the average as you move up, the majority of the workforce is on the 11th floor, 10th floor. And I started watching smoke breaks and, 10-minute smoke breaks, right? 10, 15 minutes max. So, which is allowable on a job site, especially back then when everybody smoked. So this was early 90s.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden I saw that people were just waiting for the elevator. They were going down the elevator. By the time they got down, then their clock started. So the 15-minute break turned into a half hour, 45 minutes.
Oh.
And so, yeah. So, and I'm going, what are you doing? Well, I get a break. Well, yeah, but I have to smoke and I can't smoke in the building because it's a fire hazard. And I was just going crazy. I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And because all this money, I was calculations. So if you did calculations, $3,000 a week, 52 weeks, you're close to $200,000. I'll lose easily, if not more. And plus it's 50 men, right? Consistently.
Wow.
So we're talking on a job. I'm going to lose, almost 5% at the end of the day with everything that's going on the job, which the margins weren't even there. So I put together a plan after watching that, and I went and I talked to my supervisors, and I said, "Here's the deal, and this is what I want to do." So what I did was I built a smoking room on every other floor, and so they could walk down to the smoking room. This, of course, was only one floor up, one floor down.
Yep.
And then they took 15 minutes to do their smoke, 10 to 15 minutes to do their smoke. And
nice.
Got up. So what it taught me, what was exciting about one was I was freaked out. I was like, oh my God, oh shit, what's am I going to do here? And I'm going to lose money.
Yep.
And how do I stop it? How do I stop the bleeding, as you say? Right?
Yep.
And so what I did was I talked to my supervisor. This is what I'm going to do. It's going to cost us a little bit of money, but I'm putting a smoking room on every floor. And if you can imagine the stark reality of me sitting on the job site and just seeing money bleeding out the front door, and could have cost me my job easily. I mean, you don't lose that kind of money on a project. You just don't, because there's not that much money to be made.
You could have lost your job because virtually 50 guys needed to smoke. Woo! Woo! Woo!
That's right. And almost all of them smoked. That's what was really crazy.
Of course they did. It was the early 90s.
Whether they did or not.
Yeah.
Everybody was jumping on the elevator.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You don't need to smoke and you jump. Yeah, but it's a break. Okay, I get it. But you don't need to leave. No, I'm going with my buddies. I'm like, I went through this whole dialogue with these guys, and they're on construction guys, but they could be a little gruff and
a little bit
not understanding, right? And I'm like, no, it's my break. And I was freaking out. I mean, talk about losing sleep at night. I'm sitting there, wide open at night, like I had 10 cups of coffee, and trying to figure out, what's my solution. And you don't, in a large organization I was working for back then, you don't just do haphazardly whatever you want. You have to run it up the chain of command.
Mm-hmm.
And so that takes time sometimes. And thank God I had a wonderful man who's still a friend. And this was, of course, when I worked for the organization. I did not own my own organization. And I asked, could I meet with them? And he said, sure. And I went up to his office and sat down. But prior to that, which was a great lesson for me, Stephanie, was that I put together my approach, my plan. I had all my details, very specific, down to minutes, hours, weeks, of course, on an annual basis. So really taught me, look, you can't come forward with a plan and devise that alone. You've got to build a constituency, if you will, and support.
Yes.
Yes. Because even if you're right, you can be absolutely right, which I was laying better. I could be right, but I could be wrong, right? And the last thing I want to do is lose my job. So it was a few nights laying awake, and and finally came up with that and ran it up the chain of command. First, I went to my supervisor, got his approval. They did not circumvent the process. And then I said, do you mind? Can I speak to our president? He said, absolutely. I think he would appreciate it. Now, whether all presidents appreciate it or not, that was it. But mine did. It was John Gaylor, Gaylor Electric.
Yeah.
A very large electric company. And so John was very understanding. It was just a great answer. He says, how can I help you? Which just blew me away. Because when you're a lower manager and you don't ask, or you don't think you can ask, the president of a large organization for help. And so there's some lessons, but the actual experience was really freaked me out. I mean, from one standpoint, I thought, okay, I better start looking for a job. And from another standpoint, how I am as an individual, I said, no, I can do this. I can fix this. I can make this work. I'll figure this out.
Yeah.
And so it was a great lesson for me to just go through the whole scenario, watching those men go up and down the elevator, seeing them on the street smoking. And again, the way my mind works, every time they went down, it was another $300 or $400 per man. It was just insane.
Yeah.
So interesting experience, but I can talk about so many lessons in that. But the experience itself, I think the and it depends on the individual. Me, I can only speak from my standpoint. The emotional intensity of that type of situation can sometimes make you or break you.
Yes.
And can definitely stunt your growth. As a manager, as an executive, as a growing young man. Because I was in my early 30s, so 30-something years old, and I'm running, this $20 million job, and it was the first large job I ever ran.
Yeah.
So I'm sweating it. I mean, I am freaking out, like I said earlier. But again, the emotion, not only from the standpoint of the actual situation, right, of knowing that you're losing money and seeing all these men go up and down and doing what they're doing, and women, because we had a few, not many. But I also was like, what do I need to do? How do I talk to my supervisor and tell him what's going on? How do I talk to the president of a large organization? Who am I to have that type of position, which I didn't in the hierarchy of the organization, but give me the courage to do that. I think that was key. And at that point, I knew I couldn't fix it on my own. I knew I needed support from different factors within the organization. And I did. I got it, luckily.
Yeah.
Although I've seen times when people don't get the authority, they don't do it, and they end up on the chopping block.
Yeah. Oh. Well, can we go back to kind of the emotion of the moment and like staying up all night and the intensity that you said?
Yeah. I think that, and again, every individual is different.
Sure.
I take everything personal in one form of fashion. I think, I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, especially with my career and the way I work. It's very important to me. And I know not everybody has that position or viewpoint, but everything I do represents me. So the intensity of that and staying up at night, and at that time, my poor wife just like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm trying to work on this problem. But then pretty soon you get into lack of sleep, and you're tired, and you're searching for solutions to a big problem. I mean, it can definitely wear on you. It definitely wore on me. But at the end of the day, that emotion did not interfere with my intent to be successful.
Yeah.
I'm success driven. I've always been success driven, as most people are. But I think it comes in levels. I think the intent, the desire, the passion to succeed at that time was so intense for me that I had to do it. It was like, for me, in my mind, laying up at night thinking about it was live or die. I'm either going to do it or I'm not going to do it.
Wow.
And I will figure this out.
Well, and what I hear in that is, the I will figure it out. Like that's a commitment to being a problem solver. A lot of people do get stuck in the emotion and the intensity, and they either just quit. They
Yeah.
don't really look for a solution. They're not willing to go to their supervisor. And even if you hadn't come up with a solution, going to your supervisor to saying, here's what's going on, like, and this is what I've observed, help me craft a solution. Like
Right.
that's a problem solver mentality, maybe not as action oriented, but that one is needed versus oh, well, I guess I'm just going to write it out and let this job lose 5% till they fire me. There's a lot of people that just get stuck in it too. So that your willingness to, when I said earlier, like you took responsibility because people needed a smoke break. You were losing sleep. They weren't losing sleep over their smoke break.
Not at all. They didn't care. They're getting paid when we're done.
Yeah.
No, you're right. And I think also it was, it's the term that comes to me is failure. I did not want to be a failure.
Right.
And some people will accept failure, and this is not a judgment call, it's just a reality call. Some people will accept failure sooner than others. And I think other people, I'm one of them, will not accept failure.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes probably when I should, and just move on.
Yeah, true story.
I mean, that's an emotion, right? I've seen people that are so hard-headed, and I guess I consider myself somewhat hard-headed, is that they just won't give up. And if you talk, I've had people ask me as I, got further along in my career, I said, maybe you should just roll it up and move on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to work. But I was not of that mindset, and I still am not. I'm still of that. As I get later in life, I don't give up. I figure somehow, what's the worst thing? My position, even then, was what's the worst thing can happen? I can fail. Okay, that's the worst. So what's the best thing?
Yes, that's the better question. What's the best thing can happen? Yes.
Right. Because, failure can be imminent, but not necessarily. And so it's walking those. I mean, there was another situation on that job. We started losing money on materials, and the same project. Boy, they put me in a tough one. And so getting materials up to the 11th floor and trying to use an elevator, right? And so that was another late night stay on the same project. And I walk up and I said, wait a minute. You know what we'll do? We'll get a lift and we'll remove the windows. Nobody had thought of that before. We're talking a 10, 11-story building, getting up there and actually removing the windows. And that takes a cost, right?
Yeah.
But by removing those windows, again, we remove the windows and then with a lift, put the materials, drop bulk material through the window onto the job site, as opposed to trying to get it up through the elevator, whatever. So, I mean, there was many lessons on that project. And then the cost of the materials. When could I get them? I had to shut the street down. How do you shut a street down? I had never shut a whole, this was on the corner of Market in Illinois.
Okay.
And right on the corner during the day, busy time. Can I shut this building down? Again, I'm 30 years old. Can I shut a building down? Well, maybe.
Or shut a street down?
Not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Anything's possible.
Right. Maybe. Right.
Yeah.
Maybe not. What's the worst can happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
The city or the vendors on that street would say, no, you can't shut the street down. You're making me lose business, So, but I went around, I talked to the people on the street. I said, look, we're going to shut the street down. It'll only take 2 hours. Do you have any problems? And we always think, and during that time, talking about the emotion, you always think the worst is going to happen. At least I do. Maybe I'm half empty at times. Try to think I'm half full most of the time. But at that time, again, being young, I was like, okay, the worst, this is going to happen. I'm not going to be able to shut the street down. I'm not going to be able to get the materials on time. I'm not going to get the smoke rooms built in the corner of every other floor. But I'm going to try. And it always, again, during this project, everything that I thought, man, that seems impossible, became possible.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. Yes. Everything that I thought was impossible just became possible because you tried,
Right.
because you put in the work.
Right.
Out. Oh my gosh.
Because I took a step off the cliff.
Yes.
Tried, you know?
Yes.
And I did my work. You know, I went to each
Of course.
vendor on that street and I said, hey, and I communicated. And so that was part of my whole solution remedy, if you will, is that, okay, go try. So shut the street. You know, go up through your bureaucratic organizational process. What do you have to lose? The worst thing you can do is get fired, you know, and you know, have the job turn out terrible, get fired. Those are the worst things. Okay, I'm good with that. I know what I'm going to do if that happens. Right?
Yeah, you have a plan.
Now I have a plan. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's the impossible. Now what's possible?
Ooh.
Right? So
ooh.
turn the switch on.
Love
so
that.
Then I just attacked. I went after it with appetite that I would not lose, and did not. It was a very successful project. The president of the company, John Gaylor, loved it. It made money, more money than they thought they would make. I mean, I just became a superstar. When in my mind, laying up at night, I was already a failure in my mind. And then I became, you know, a rock star.
Yeah. Oh, curse of the overachiever, man. That is what we do to ourselves. Yes.
It's true.
Yes.
I mean,
oh my gosh.
You know, and who's our worst critic? Ourselves.
Absolutely.
Right? We're going to beat ourselves up more. I mean, I beat myself up at night, late at night, sweating. What's going to happen on this project? We are our worst critic. I am my worst critic.
Yeah. Oh, I've fired myself so many times in the middle of the night. And then you finally get, 3 hours of sleep and you wake up and your brain can rinse itself. And you're like, what was I so worked up about?
I call it the spiral effect.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You allow yourself to spiral in the wrong direction.
Yes.
And you just need to get your mind, and say, stop.
Yes.
Stop it.
Oh, well, and I tell my,
lessons.
I love it. Well, and I tell my clients about that all the time. We all are very familiar with that vicious cycle that you described, where your brain goes down the rabbit hole of, I'm going to get fired, and then I'm probably going to have an arm cut off, and then I'm going to die. And it's like the worst things ever, right? Like just
my wife, my kids are going to hate me. My friends they'll shun me because I'm a failure.
There's going to be a country song written after you. I mean, it's bad. It's bad.
Exactly. Then I'll probably get arrested or something.
Yes.
Having a beer, keep going. How far do you want to go with that, right?
Yeah. Well, we go all the way down, right? But no one knows about their virtuous cycle where they ask themselves, what is possible? What can I do? So they can go up. And we get to a higher level of decision-making in our brain. All right. I want to ask you one question, and then let's take a commercial break. We'll come back and talk about all the great lessons learned. So you mentioned that on this project, you ended up as a rock star, despite all the nights that you beat yourself up. The project made more money than you all thought possible. Just curious on timeline, because I know that's a big deal in the construction industry too. Where'd you end up on your timeline because of your
we met
project manager?
Right on that.
Nice job. Amazing.
No interruption. We did have to double shift for a couple of weeks, but it's a great question because it's all about time. Delivery, right? It's a process. So no. It was, I mean, but again, no experience of any type happens in a vacuum. And so I had many people that I go to, and I think, I definitely had the courage to do that.
Yes.
Say, what do you think? And people, I was very surprised, especially as a young person that wants to prove themselves, right? And how open people are if you just ask. If you just ask them, there's a great wisdom in the multitude of counselors, it says in the Bible. And it's true. Go out and seek out information and learn. Be a sponge. So all that in experience, and all of a sudden, I was top of the hill somewhat, through that. What would have been failure.
I love it.
Turned into success.
Yes.
So, absolutely.
Nice. Well, let's take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk
Great.
about how you took that lesson, that pressure into the future, because you had
Great.
a very industrious and illustrious career after that experience. All right,
That's
we'll be
right.
right back.
All right. Thanks.
While we're taking a break from this episode's hot mess, I want to talk about one of the hot messes that I know you have, and that's your meetings. Friends, one of the biggest complaints that we have in our businesses is either about the amount of meetings, how long they are, how worthless they are. And my perspective is that your meetings are your most expensive use of your team's time. That means they also need to be the most valuable use of your team's time. And instead, right now, too many of your meetings are spent with just status updates where they could have been an email, or the mansplainer that talks a lot, but doesn't say anything, or the person who shows up and says, "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get this done. I'm sorry I didn't get this done." So then why are you meeting? So instead of leaving your next meeting feeling deflated like Eeyore, I want you to feel like Bruce Lee and kick in some major ass. So that's why I've created this tool for you. It's called Lead Kick-Ass Meetings, and you can get it at stephaniecrevens.com/lead kick-ass meetings. Get it? And it is full of templates, agendas, and icebreakers that you can use. Just copy and paste, plug and play, so that your meetings become an investable use of time for you and your team and your company. I chose these 3 areas for your meeting specifically because they're usually the tools that are most likely to go off the rails for any leader, and you need something that's plug and play. You know, most folks complain that an icebreaker is too cheesy. I've got icebreakers for you that are worthwhile and create connection. Most folks complain that an agenda either doesn't exist or it's so vague you have no idea what you're talking about. I've got agendas for you that are useful from the get-go. And I've got some templates and tools and processes that you can use. Again, just send it out to your team to make the meeting as valuable as possible. All right, my friend, that's what I have for you. I want your next meeting to be worth $1 million, right? It's costing your company a lot of time and money. It's costing you a lot of frustration. Lead Kick-Ass Meetings. Go over to the landing page. It's just stephaniecrevens.com/lead kick-ass meetings. Put in your email. You'll get that tool delivered right to your inbox, and you're going to be a meeting hero as soon as you put those into practice. All right, now let's get back to this episode's hot mess. Let's jump back in. So you said that was in this hot mess for a project. And that was, just to recognize the transformative nature of that building in downtown Indianapolis at that time. That was part of the evolution of what downtown was to become,
Absolutely.
which is, amazing. And it's for those of us who have been in Indianapolis for a long time to watch our downtown city center transform into the place to be, like, it's really something to be proud of and to become a model for so many other cities in the way we laid out our sports complexes and our walkability. I mean, I'm just so proud of Indianapolis.
It's very intentional too, which is key. I mean,
yes, it was.
I have the fortune that to be mentored by a lot of the fathers of Indianapolis, and Dick Lugar and others, that actually, and it's amazing how Indianapolis came together to do that.
Yes.
I mean, they continue, although they're struggling, use that term, they've continued to come to the table with innovative ideas and progressive ideas for Indianapolis.
Yep.
So it's good stuff.
It is good stuff.
Good city, good people, and I'm from California. We don't have the mountains, we don't have the ocean, we don't have, but we have some really good people, which is very cool.
Yes, agreed. So since that time, your career has come a long, long way. I mean, you've done amazing things, built many businesses, spun up multiple nonprofits, built capacity for Latina and Latino leadership here in Indianapolis. What have you taken since that time in your life, that project specifically, into what you built afterwards, physically and metaphorically through businesses?
Sure. No. I mean, great question. And we could be here for hours, but I think, that experience opened the door. And I use this word a lot, which was actually recently kind of revealed to me. Was like, the person asked me, when did you get the permission to become a leader? And I'm in some sectors, I'm known as a leader in Minneapolis, in different areas and happened. And so that was a great question, permission. And now I teach us, when I teach leadership, is that we have to give ourselves permission. Because we don't, those of us that are high performers, whether potentially or actually, oftentimes we don't give ourselves permission to stretch.
Yes.
And so in my experience, like from that project, I was given permission to think outside the box by my superiors. And that was so unique to me. And then at that time, once they gave me permission, then it kind of gave me the authority to use my mind and my intuition and all that I had to really move the ball forward. I think oftentimes when I work with young managers and executives, which I do a lot, I talk to them about, look, you need to give yourself permission and authority to take a risk and to look outside the box and to move forward. You don't know what you don't know. And don't think you know what you don't know. So what I mean by that statement is it's okay to not know everything. It's not okay, if you want to move forward, to think you know everything and hold yourself accountable to that.
Yes.
That will prohibit you from growing. So, I talk about growth principles, if you will, and gaining that permission, not only from the external standpoint, from an internal standpoint of yourself. I would say, Charlie, I give you permission to move forward with this. And with that permission, grabbing the authority to do so. I'm working with 3 executives right now. And again, from that moment, those lessons that continue through life, if you will, is it's okay to take a risk. I have one young man, and I mentioned the organization, works for the healthcare system. And he said, Charlie, after 4 sessions with you in your program, I went out on a limb in my mind and I applied for an upper management position. And to my surprise, I got it.
Yes. Yes.
He would have never given himself permission to go after that next level for whatever reason.
Sure.
He didn't have the right letters behind his name. He didn't have a doctor. He didn't have, I don't, right?
Yes.
We talked about earlier about the spiral effect, right? What don't I have? But yeah, what do I have?
Yes.
What do you have? I have confidence. I'm smart. I'm bright. I'll work harder than everybody else. I'll do my due diligence. I'll do everything I need to do to move that forward. I'm willing to do that. Well, that takes precedence over, MBAs. And I've sat with many of them. I've sat with people, and nothing against Harvard. These guys who came out of Harvard, I remember this one experience, and they were saying, well, where you went to Harvard? And I said, I don't care where you went. What decisions you're making is wrong. And so again, giving yourself permission, giving yourself authority. And the other, another that I've learned, and in that experience, was you need to be selfish. You need to say, hey, I can do this.
Yes.
I'm going to do this. I don't care what everybody else thinks. I can get this done. This is for me. And my success will breed success to other people that I'm surrounded with. I will be selfish in this instance, and I will grab the opportunity. And again, what's the worst thing? I'll be where I'm at, which isn't so bad, right? So if I'm a manager, middle or upper manager, executive, or whatever in an organization, what's the worst thing that can happen? You already have proven yourself. Stephanie, I find it interesting that people who really are successful sometimes don't think they are.
Mm-hmm.
They, for whatever reason, I sit with, again, I mentioned young executives. I was in this situation as a 30-year-old, and I didn't think I was successful, but I was in my own right. And so success is, it's like beauty, it's the eye of the beholder. Everybody's successful. Everybody, you get up in the morning, you're breathing, you're walking, you put your pants on like everybody else, and but you're successful today. What are you going to do today? That's what I teach. You have 24 hours. No one gets more, no one gets less.
Yes.
What are you going to do with 24 hours?
Yes.
That's up to you. That's up to me, right? So that's why I talk about selfish. And I had to become selfish in that instance of that building, that I could take authority, that I will take authority, and I will move the ball forward when I come with that project.
Yes.
But I do that in every business that I have now.
But your secret is, it's not that your selfishness seems to me, tell me if I'm off base, is connected to, I will take authority, I will take responsibility, I will take accountability. You can't pick and choose which of those elements you want and then say, look at me, I was successful. You have to own the rights and the responsibilities together. And then that selfishness, which is a loaded word with a lot of people, but that selfish, that self-centeredness, that willingness to say, I'm awesome, then you can also earn that in the rights of other people. Now, if you just want to be like, I'm going to do it, but then I'm going to blame everybody else why it's not successful at the end, then you're just an asshole and no one wants to work with you.
Which happens.
Right? It does happen.
We've all run into those people.
Yeah.
We've all run into those people.
Yes.
I had people that worked for me. Unfortunately, I had to terminate them because they wanted the accolades. They wanted the financial gain, but they didn't want the accountability.
That's right.
And we call them Teflon, whatever, Teflon Pete's, right? Everybody, nothing sticks to them, right?
Yes.
It's always somebody else's fault.
Yes.
I more respect someone who says, you know what, Charlie, I screwed up. I think I can fix it. Will you help me? I'll take that all day.
Absolutely.
For the guy that comes, I've had so many people come to my office in my different businesses, and those people I will die for. I will go to the foxhole with them. We'll fight through the problem together. That other person, that Teflon Pete, the first thing I say is, you need to leave. I have no time for that. People who would come to my office and bring problems without solutions. I use the term, don't come and poop on my desk without bringing a shovel.
That's right.
Because I'm not going to clean up for it.
Yeah.
You better bring me a solution. Now, it may not be the right solution, and I'm okay with that. To your point, accountability. I'm accountable. I have a problem. This is what I think we can do to fix it. Great. Let's work together.
Yeah. At least do some of the thinking when you bring it to your boss. Exactly. Like, you have to do some of the thinking, not the just dump it in their lap and be like, all right, got to go on a smoke break. I'll see you later.
Right. Or I am so smart. I am so bright. I think I have the solution. Because you may not.
Right.
You may have a solution, but you don't have the solution.
Yes.
So I've had those people come and say, well, I can fix this. I'm like, you know what? You're going to go down that rabbit hole.
Yes.
And you're going to take us all down. So no, you're wrong. So I'd rather the person come with a little meekness and humbleness and say, look, here's what I think we can do. And that not only from the standpoint of problems and challenges, but I think even from a career standpoint. I've had people come in to me and say, hey, Charlie, I'm thinking about adjusting my career or moving into a different direction. I'm like, okay, let's sit down and talk about it. I've had associates, wonderful people come in and say, I have an opportunity with another organization. I've had grown men cry at my desk saying, but I don't want to leave you. I'm like, no, you need to leave me. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. And you stay here because you're loyal to me? Are you crazy?
Yes.
I love you for it, but no.
Yes.
Let me help you pack your bags. you need to go and take advantage of this.
Absolutely.
So that for me, understanding that selfishness, if you will, that, people need to be selfish. We all need to take advantage of it. But I think it's for the good of the great, if you will, that it's fair and it's equal, not just I'm so good, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. And I've had many of those people in my office, and I just send them out the door. And so, and I always say this working with people, because I was taught this, that excellence is always at the margin. It's never, you don't change things overnight. It's the tenacity, the perseverance, the work you do every day with a compounding factor that changes your life and others.
Yes.
You do your best. You don't have to be 100% better. You don't have to be 100% right. But if you can be 2 to 3 to 4 to 5% better every day, every month, every year, you're going to be the best eventually, because you'll outdistance everybody because of that compounding effect. And so, and the analogy I learned, it was a friend of mine who was CEO, and he said, it's like, the analogy he used was the back fin on Indy 500. He says, they can move that fin just a micro whatever.
Yeah, micromillimeter. Yeah.
And it will change the race. And that's what excellence is. It's never changed the whole car. It's just one little thing that gives you the edge. And so I've always worked towards doing that. I read one more book. I think outside the box. And there was a point in my life where all I read was, oh my goodness, was management books and psychology books and behavioral books. And one day I sat down and I go, man, I've got to use the other side of my brain. So I talked to a friend. He says, well, you should read Patterson. Who's Patterson? This crazy, detective author. I'm like, I don't read that stuff. And I said, I will. So understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, really focusing on your strengths and working on your weaknesses. But you'll go farther. There used to be a saying where, well, you know your strengths and work on your weaknesses. No, everybody has weaknesses. You're going to have them. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Learn to shore them up so they don't take you down. But
exactly.
you don't build them into a strength that's not actually mentally or physically possible.
Right. Oh. Right. You waste your time. You spend all your time on that. There's a reason it's a weakness, right?
Yes.
You may not have whatever capabilities, resource. It doesn't matter. But gain that strength. And so all that, I use that one example of that project, but life is about that. And again, when I talk to young executives and managers, it's like a light goes off. I can really do that. I'm working with one now, I'm mentoring a young lady, and she said, do you think I could be an entrepreneur? I said, absolutely. Yeah. All it takes is courage, risk taker, and smart and bright, and want to work really hard.
Yes.
And not give up. You have to persevere, because you'll have down cycles. I guarantee you, you'll have failures. So those are, the growth principles that I learn and I live by even today, and I'm somewhat successful. I have real estate and business and construction business and different businesses, but all of them are based on very simple principles, fairness, equality, open-mindedness, look outside the box. You don't know all the answers. And again, I've had, at least 10 young managers who, like I mentioned earlier, just said, I didn't think I could do it, but I applied for this position. Or, I've got a couple that are so successful, like multi-millionaires. And this is back when I did work with Procter & Gamble. He worked with Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble came to work for me. I said, you could be an entrepreneur. He goes, no, I don't think so. I'm just a middle manager at Procter & Gamble. I'll never. This guy now he said, Charlie, I would never done it if you would have talked to me back then and said I could do it. And awesome. So we talked about permission, right?
Yes.
When are you, maybe not you, but people, when will people give themselves permission to be successful?
Yes.
Unfortunately, not everybody does it.
That's right.
And it doesn't matter where you're at, right, Stephanie? You can be You can be a manager, whatever, McDonald's. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can work. It doesn't matter. There's a guy, a friend of mine, who washed dishes at a restaurant and now is extremely wealthy real estate tycoon, if you will. I mean, there's no limits. The only limits is those that you know yourself.
That's right. Oh gosh. Yeah. I just took a huge deep breath because one, I wanted to soak in that message for myself, but two, to encourage the listeners to soak it in for themselves too. We do not need other people's permission to have our dreams, to go after our dreams, to acknowledge our full humanity, to say, I want this and I'm going to go after it. I mean, gosh, especially in America, especially in the tools that are available now to people from a variety of, the variety of tools that you need in the industry. I mean, everything is so accessible in a way that it wasn't 20, 30 years. Like, now is your time to go after your dreams. But one of the thought leaders I follow online, his name is Brendan Burchard. And I heard this early on when I was starting my coaching business, and it kind of punched me in between the forehead. And I was like, okay, we got to go. But he says, don't be surprised that when you go after your dreams, a lot of hard work shows up. That's the part that people have to remember when every day can get really hard. You have to make some tough decisions. It will. Yes.
No, it will get really hard.
That's right. That's right. Win. Yes. Yeah.
That's what I was talking. This one guy told me one time. And he said, people ask me, very successful. He said, people ask me, how did I get so lucky? I said, I don't know. I'm so lucky. I work 24/7.
Yes. Yes.
A day.
Yes.
I work really hard to be so lucky.
Yes.
And to your point, right? It's hard work. I don't care.
Is.
And not everybody is cut out for every position, whether it's in corporate America, an institute, nonprofit, or entrepreneur. Not everybody, but you choose your path.
That's right.
Back to it. Everybody gets 24 hours. Everybody has a brain. Everybody, we're all human beings, and no one really, so someone thinks quicker, smarter, doesn't matter. To your point, Stephanie, it's about work. Are you willing to put the work in?
Yes.
And even that alone is not enough. Are you willing to take a risk?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's always a key in life. If you do nothing, you're safe, but you do nothing, right? So what are you going to do? What is going to set you apart? What is going to drive you as a human? What is going to make you happy and excited to wake up every morning? I had a great job. In fact, with John, and then from there, I went on with a couple other employers, and I started my first business. And John said, I should have never let you go. I should have kept you. I said, John, we all choose our paths. And you were a great mentor to me and still are. But we're all human beings. We'll go the way we go. And I'm successful, and John's successful. So success breeds success. And learn from your peers. Learn from everybody. I tell everybody, be a student of life.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never outgrow that. Be a student of life.
Yes.
And learn what drives you. What drives you? What makes you excited? Because if you're not excited about life, then you're doing yourself an injustice.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh. Yes. If you're not having fun, right? We need more fun in our lives.
Right. If you're not laughing, enjoying, and just, because there'll be times when you can't. You don't have time to laugh.
Yes.
You got, you don't have that luxury. Right? You got bills to pay. You got things to do. But when you have that time to sit down and enjoy life, I think that's one. I think the other point is, for me, is peace. I have to be peaceful because life is always trying to disrupt peace. I've got to be peaceful in my walk every day. Mm-hmm. And because I don't make good decisions if I'm around.
Yes.
And so I've learned to, and again, that's a lesson. Like on that job, I could have freaked out and walked off the job. Said, this is too hard for me. I'm leaving. But I did. I maintained my focus and worked really hard. And that's just my life story. I continue to do it. I love it. People ask me, when are you going to retire? What does that mean? I am retired because I enjoy it. I do what I want. I enjoy life.
Yes.
But you're working. Yeah, I love to work. I love people. I love working hard. I love figuring out things. And I love to be put in a difficult situation and work my way out of it. For me, that is just, I love people to bring me their problems so I can have them work through them.
Yeah.
For me, it's fun, and what's the worst thing that can happen? You stay where you're at. Well, where I'm at is not so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good.
I love it. Well, I'm going to ask you one last question and then I'll get you back to changing your part of the world here. But as someone who has risen the ranks from manager, that grammar right there, has rose from that manager to where you are today and leading the companies that you have. What do you wish that other mid-level leaders knew about what it takes to be in your shoes and how they can help?
I think because I'm in that position often with mid-level managers. And, I think to seek counsel, there's no greater lesson in life. Seek counsel, you can't be the smartest guy in the room. Don't ever think you are. I've been with those people. They're nauseating. But seek counsel. Seek counsel. Go ask, what's the worst thing that can happen? People don't give you counsel, but say, hey, what do you think?
Yes.
Listen and learn. Don't be the first one to open your mouth. That is my greatest, and I've been on, Chase Bank Board. I've been on all, the Federal Reserve. I've been on these huge organizations, institutions, and I always walk in, and oftentimes I go, what am I doing here? God, I didn't have a finance degree or anything, or whatever it is. I've been on trustee at universities, but you know what? I listen, and I am smart, and I make sure I never come to the party empty-handed. That's a lesson I learned. You never come to the party empty-handed. I've always got something to share.
Yes,
and I'm always prepared to share. And so, seek advice. Never come to the party empty-handed. But I think those lessons really helped me outdistance, what I had previously thought where I'd be. Because I was fine being a project manager, but there was something inside me that said, it's not enough.
Yes.
I want more.
I'm so glad you listened to that voice. Too many people don't. They don't listen to that voice because you were made for more and you knew it and you made it happen. And I know that to be true about everyone.
Sure.
Not just listening in, but everyone. Like you are made for more. I know that for sure. So thank you. Thank you, Charlie. Such an inspiration. Make me so happy. Every time we talk, my face is just hurts from smiling and laughing so much. I love it.
Good. Life's to be enjoyed. That's what I would
Absolutely. Say. Well, thank you.
All right, Stephanie. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
All right, y'all. Those are the truth bombs that Charlie has for us today. Seriously, every time I leave his presence, I just feel so blessed by his energy. It just gives me enthusiasm and some kind of gumption or something to face the day again. When Charlie and I were talking about, and I invited him onto the podcast, I was like, hey, can you share a story where maybe you wanted to quit? He's like, what? No, I've never wanted to quit. Has it been hard? Yes. Have I had to dig deep? Yes. Have I had to find solutions that I never thought I'd have to find? Yes. But quit? No. Charlie's a tough cookie, and his answer to that really inspired me because there's been some days as an owner of a business, there's been some days as an employee, I've just wanted to quit. And Charlie's fire and zest for life reminded me that, no, I don't want to quit. I don't ever want to quit. I'm going to keep going. Now, sometimes you need to shut some things down, like he mentioned in the episode. Sometimes the universe is just telling you to get on another path and you need to listen to the universe versus banging your head against the brick wall. But will I ever quit? No. And I hope the same is true for you. But friends, his fire it just inspires me to keep going when things get really, really hard. I want to share with you the 20% of that content that stood out to me that I know is going to have 80% of the impact on me. And I hope you. And wherever you're listening or watching in, would you share what had impact on you too? Because we can all learn from each other's perspectives, learn from the nuggets that we take away. I wrote down Charlie's process and kind of his problem-solving process when he was in that conundrum on that construction project. And I love to write down people's thought processes for how they solve problems, because there's always an opportunity to use that process in one of my problems. So one, he watched the numbers. He was managing those numbers really closely to understand, oh crap, we're in some hot water here. I got to figure out what's going on. Step two, he observed physically what was going on. He observed the process during the day so he could figure out what was working, what wasn't working, where did he need to focus his problem solving on. Then third, he looked for some simple answers. Friends, the answers were not fire the whole crew and bring in all new subs or bring in all new employees. It wasn't some grand idea. It was build in smoking areas every other floor so that they could go further, or they wouldn't have to go as far to smoke. So the smoke break could be in a smaller container of time, if you will. Simple answers produce big results. I know that much to be true. Fourth, he went to his boss to present solutions. And the lesson you need to learn there is, even when you have a really good idea, even if you feel confident in that idea, you take it to your boss, you run it up the chain of command to get permission, and you should always expect feedback. You should always expect that they're going to want to add their observations or their ideas too. And it doesn't mean that your idea is a bad one, but you should respect your manager, your president, those above you. You should respect their experience and add that experience into your solution. Too many leaders that I work with, they get offended when their boss or their manager provides input or says, hey, have you thought it from this perspective? Or, hey, your idea is great, but no, not yet. Or, hey, your idea is great, but we need this little tweak on it. I don't understand why you're getting offended. That's your ego. Because your manager, who's responsible for a different level in the business, for a different kind of strategy, has insight into other issues going on in the company, they deserve to have their perspective heard as well. And so you heard Charlie mention in his level of success, going to other constituencies, communicating, doing the work, running it up chains of command. That's that diplomacy that we all need to practice inside of our organization, and not just expect that our good idea, we're just going to be able to run with it. You need to bring others into the fold. I know for my folks that want to make fast decisions and take fast action, it feels like you're slowing something down. You're not. You're going to spend that time on the back end cleaning up some messes if you don't get the right approvals and communicate with the right folks on the front end. And so that was a simple 4-step process that I think any of us could use on the right problem. Use that approach to rethink something. Look, watch the numbers, observe what's happening, look for a simple answer, and then take it to the powers that be and present a solution. Run it up that chain of command. Yeah, the other things that I heard Charlie mention that really stuck out to me is he took responsibility for the problem. He didn't take responsibility for the people quitting smoking. He didn't take responsibility for the people to lessen their time that they were gone. He took responsibility for the problem. When you just kind of focus on the people in the moment, that individual, you can jump into micromanagement real quick, because that was not his job. That was not his role on that job to, micromanage those people so they really got everything down to a 15 or 10-minute break. And he knew that was an uphill battle. That was probably a battle he wasn't going to win for a variety of political reasons. He took responsibility for solving the problem. He took accountability for it. He lost sleep at night for a problem. He didn't lose sleep at night because some guys were smoking. He's like, gosh, I hate when people smoke. They just eat up my time. That's not the issue. He solved the real problem. He got to the heart of the issue. I just love that. And you guys, Charlie asked so many great self-coaching questions of himself that you can do for yourself too. I know too many leaders that go down the rabbit hole of suck and insecurity and no confidence, and the worst thing possible is going to happen. But did you hear those powerful questions that he has learned to ask himself that you can too? Instead of asking, what don't I have? You say, what do I have? Instead of saying, what if I fail? You say, ooh, what if I succeed? You've got to temper that. Answer those questions powerfully, of course. But every successful leader I know also has a little bit of edge in terms of a little bit of pessimism. You want to be on the lookout for things for going wrong, but that's not what you should always see in every single problem. Forge ahead, be optimistic, but keep your resources and your plans in place so that if or when something does not go according to plan, you're ready for it. You're ready to adapt, right? That is different than not moving forward because, oh, this is going to suck, or it's another idea that's going to fail. That's not what we're talking about here. Have some pragmatic hope for the future. Ask what is possible. Ask what do you have to get started. And then I'll leave you with this thought too. Charlie talked about being selfish, and that has different connotations with a lot of people. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be selfish. And what he's talking about is absolutely something we all must be willing to embrace. It's this idea of having confidence in yourself, trusting yourself, and being willing to pick up the responsibility with the reward. Have the risk, take the risk, and get the responsibility. You will get the reward. You have to couple all of those together. You can't have one without the other. Don't just pick up all the responsibility, but don't ask for any of the reward, and vice versa. Don't ask for all of the reward and not be willing to pick up the responsibility. No go. And I know I said that was my last thought, but I got to pick up on this last one too. I just remembered it. He referenced, without saying these words directly, ask for help. And again, another loaded term in American work culture. If you're not comfortable asking for help, long-term, get comfortable asking for help. Short-term, get comfortable seeking counsel. Ask people for advice. That's how all of us are successful. Seek counsel. So if you're not comfortable asking for help, seek counsel. Just ask for advice. Even if it's on a small piece of your work, it can propel you exponentially with one little nugget or one little insight from someone who's been there, done that. All right, my friends, those are my lessons from today. I mean, Charlie just lights me up. He's so optimistic, and I love that. And I know that I enjoy having that presence in my life. So if you've got value from this episode, would you please, please, please share it with someone else, or another couple someone else's who would get value from it too, so that we can bring these lessons learned to even more future pro troublemakers. And now it's time. Let's close down that media. Let's invest ourselves in the real work that creates impact. And I'll see you next time.